Sonixinema have sent me their latest instrument, the Heritage Cello, to check out. It is a wonderfully intimate sound and full of character with a lot of cool features that honestly I'd love to see in more libraries. While it has a fantastic sound, there are some limitations, so as an independent channel with nothing dictated to me, I get to chat about those too. So let's dive in and explore this library. So the first thing that I want to talk about is obviously the character of this library. The character of this library is definitely a huge selling point. It's the sound that you're after if you're going for this library. I've written a short piece that's centered heavily around obviously the cello as the solo instrument, but then also this piano with it, with a few other layers in there as well. And the solo cello is a whopping library with a lot of detailed sampling. It's got something like over 44 gigs worth of samples built into this library, so it's incredibly intricate and detailed, and that does lead to a beautiful sound. If I solo this one up, and we take a look at the first part of this phrase, you'll really hear the detail and the expression within this library. It is honestly a very gorgeous sound, long evolutions of the character. You can almost hear the wood resonance sound of the cello. It's very beautiful. Because they were after that long evolution of sound, I think it does cause some limitations, so we'll talk more about that later. But this is no different to any other Sonixinema library, in my opinion. I haven't used too many of their instruments, but I have used some of their free instruments that are available in this song too. The Delicate Strings is a wonderful free library that you can download from them, and it has a wonderful sound that kind of evolves and creates a soft texture underneath. They also have this pulsing pattern that you can create with the Delicate Strings library using their gator, so I've just added that in underneath as well. Along with their brass library and their winds library. So there's certainly no stranger to wonderful sounds, and this library is no different, but it of course is so much more depth and detail. And that really leads me on to the articulations that you'll find inside this library. This library has loads to choose from. It's not just the legato patch that I've been using in this demo track, but there's lots of others. If I just flick through a few. But one articulation I quite like is the trills section, and I love to see this in other libraries as well. You can see it come up with a message straight away saying to play a trill, you need to press two keys that are either a whole or a half step or a semitone or tone apart. This is actually great because normally with trills, you have kind of a major trills and a minor trills for the major second or minor second. But this way, you can instead just hold down the interval and it will trill between those two notes. I just think that's a really neat thing, and it's certainly cool to see it in this library, and I wish that other libraries would function that way as well, so you don't have to quickly keep key switching between major or minor trills. Down here, of course, you've got things like the global balance, where you can make a more intimate or further away sound. You have expression and dynamics. There's an effects section and an EQ section as well, depending on what you need. So that's all down there, pretty standard stuff. What I want to talk about now, though, are the different settings that you can find inside these articulations. For example, when I go into this little cog on sustain, you've got things like you can set a high pass so you don't have that low end rumble. You can change it to infinite bow so that you don't have the end or the rebowing type sound. You can just loop something forever if you want to. You have arrows through to go to other pages. So for example, tightness, which might be more important on say staccato or spiccato, and the tuning you can adjust by semitones as well if needed. You've got the attack speed, particularly important for legato or sustains or other types of soft attack articulations. And you have the cutoff point between where the dynamic layer 1 and where dynamic layer 2 would actually be. And I love that. That is particularly good inside the legato one. If I open up the legato passage, when you have this one selected, you have a beautiful sound and you can adjust how your playing is triggering each of these sounds. So you have the usual sort of settings, but then as I go through, you have this page. This adjusts where the slur versus normal transitions, the legato transitions would occur. So I've got it currently set there at 1 to 29. That means that if my velocity of the key that I'm hitting is below 29 or below 30, then it will trigger a slur legato out of the previous note. And then I've also got the normal to fast. So we've got slur to normal, and then normal will be sitting in the middle, and then fast at the top. And I've got that one set currently to 111 and above. So you've got these three different legato sounds that you can trigger with velocity, and then you can balance the dynamics of these, of course. If I play you a couple of examples of this, let's start with playing a slur versus more of a normal versus a fast. So there isn't a huge amount of detail, I think, between normal and fast, although it is different across the board, like across the keys. You'll find different sounds. They're not all identical. So it will matter more at different pitches, I think. But it's really cool that you can trigger that, and that's not uncommon in other libraries, of course. But the ability to dictate where those transitions happen, that is really cool inside this library. I really appreciate that. Because each of our playing styles is slightly different, so I think that works really well. Now, when we're talking about the legato patch, I think this is best exemplifying what I might find other limitations of this library. This library has a wonderful sound, but it's clearly geared towards a particular sound. It's designed to be expressionate. It's designed to be this really emotional resonance experience, which makes it not very good for fast playing, unless of course you're moving to staccato or spiccato. But in this legato mode, there's no live transition between legato long notes and short spiccato notes that some other libraries do have. And I find that when you're playing faster notes, it can get a little bit tricky. For example, if I solo my legato line here and I play this transition through here, you'll probably hear what I mean. That little short note that appears there is just a little bit unusual and weird because it's happening so quickly, and I feel like this library is designed for long evolutions, slow movements between long-held notes. I also find that the legato took a lot to work with because the crossover point happens quite a bit after hitting the next key. So as you play one key to the next key, it takes quite a while, a feeling like it takes quite a while to move to the next note. That the legato transition kind of happens after you've pressed the key, meaning that you really have to preempt the note going into it. I found it very hard to program the MIDI and work with that. Instead, I decided to record it live. Not my preferred method sometimes, particularly if I'm trying to do intricate detail. For a song like this, it wasn't too bad. I could record in the track and just kind of preempt and be a little bit fluid and move with it. But if you're looking for strict timing, this probably isn't the library for that, and it would be a challenge to work with. I think this is exemplified a lot in the top line here, the high section of this track, where you can really hear it struggle, particularly in this section here. While it sounds beautiful and there's certainly really cool transitions between some of these notes, these faster notes feel like it throws everything off and pushes it into a little bit too much of a delay, too much of a pull happening there. But I feel like the sound kind of makes up for it partly, but it can be tricky. When I started writing a track to experiment with this solo cello, I came up with an idea on the piano and then brought it to the cello and just found it impossible to work with this cello on that faster melody. It had lots of short runs that I just felt couldn't work within this library. So my one criticism of this library is that the legato patch is very clearly geared towards a specific style of playing and a specific style of melody. But it really does that melody well, so if you're looking for that kind of sound, then this is perfect for that, but this isn't the type of library that I think you would pull up for your everyday cello. This is something particular that you're looking for this particular sound. Another little weird thing was just that I had to program my own expression slider. I had found I had to right click and learn the MIDI CC automation for CC11. Dynamics worked fine automatically, but for some reason expression didn't. I don't know if that was just missed out, but that's just a minor thing there. All of these issues that I have with the library could actually be solved by a patch in the future, so I don't know if that's something that Sonixinema are going to keep updating, but that is possible at least. With all of that said though, I really did enjoy this library and I could see myself using it in the future, particularly when really connecting emotion is required. This library's sound is fantastic for that.